is Huda Abu Arqub, and I was born in Jerusalem and raised in between Hebron and Jerusalem. I was born for a bunch of teachers. My grandfather was one of the first teachers who studied at Oxford in the 30s and 40s, was also a teacher, a trainer of English. He lived all through historical Palestine before 1948. Many of my uncles were born in different places of Palestine. I always like to introduce myself as someone who comes from strong women. And in the Palestinian psyche in general, women have been the first responders when a tragedy happens. They found themselves taking care of the homes and of the lands and of the children when men were not around most of the time. This is a place that was plagued by conflict and by colonizers, occupiers for many years. And so when I look at the history of how women managed to prove that they were the only successful model of steadfastness and building and growth, I look at my grandmothers. They worked the land, they bought more land when they lost land after 1948 and after 1967, and all of their focus was on education. If we educate the youth, then our problems will be resolved. What I do care about is how we can empower more women both in Palestine and Israel so they can take the lead to change the conflict dynamics in general. I do believe that this conflict is actually entrenched in a sense of deep losses. Both are acting as victims, and I was speaking about that yesterday to Israelis and Palestinians, that we are not liberated yet. The Israelis have not come over their collective trauma yet. The Palestinians are still feeling the trauma and living the sense of loss and no acknowledgement. And so we're both acting as victims. When you look at women, they act as survivors all the time. So you learn survivor mechanism from them. I don't think that women can change the political leadership now, but at least they can do the re-education of both people about the other and ease the sense of fear that we both have against each other. Because some of the fear is just systematic, created by different systems like the religious system, the political system, and the occupation system itself. Walls, checkpoints, rules, laws that stop us from meeting each other are designed to keep us invisible for each other, and it makes the dehumanization process easier. And that's why the connection doesn't happen. And without a human connection, there will be no movement whatsoever. So that's where I come from, and that's what I do. That's why I am very blessed with the job of being the regional director of the Alliance for Middle East Peace, which is 106 organizations that are working on the ground here in Israel and Palestine, that brings thousands of Israelis and Palestinians together using different theories of change. And now I am trying to help do a women's chapter in each and one of these organizations. That's how I got involved also with Women Wage Peace. Let's talk about security, why we are all afraid of each other. Because we don't know each other. And if once I meet an Israeli and she knows that her security is connected completely to my own sense of security, and the things that I'm facing with my children, she is also facing with her children. And so we have a common ground and a common goal that can be transmitted to different parts of the society, even the most hardliners among us in our society. And I think that's what feminist inclusive political activism is about, that every voice counts, everyone has a stake in this conflict, everyone comes with an agenda that comes from fear and lack of knowledge. Let's combat that.
نفس تامي رحيلة البحر سلام يا حبيبة نفس تامي رحيلة في زمان عظيم وعواصف اجتني كنز العواطف يا حبيبة زمن السلام زمن السلام زمن السلام إن شاء الله زمن السلام زمن السلام زمن السلام إن شاء الله.
We are tired of paying the price of our children being buried.
I think all women, Palestinians and Israelis and everywhere in the world, when it comes to our sons, my son in a year and a half goes to the army, it's like, no, I don't want that.
So right now, Women Wage Peace are not a political, not a party organization there, but they are political in the way that they are asking for a political resolution.
There's something beyond that needs to happen, and I think Women Wage Peace really brings something else that's more cultural. It's like thinking of culture change in many levels.
So Women Wage Peace, we're trying to figure out how to make this happen, a new perspective, because and tell our government to put it back on the agenda. Everybody here wants houses and wants good jobs and all sorts of things, and the fact that young Israeli couples can't afford to buy houses is much more important on the government's agenda these days than trying to make peace with people around us, which some of us are saying that should be right up there. That should be the most important thing. We've got to figure this out, and women are starting to do it together.
רכישת רוח ים מנשבת מאי שם וכביסה מתנפנפת לצילי.
A group of Palestinian and Israeli women who started talking about the whole idea of Women Wage Peace, and we insisted that Women Wage Peace is an Israeli organization coming from the needs and the womb of the Israeli society, and we as Palestinian women are going to be a support team for them, help them by doing talks, etc., etc.
We're meeting women, Arab women from Jerusalem, from around the country, and they're helping us meet Palestinian women, and I hope one day we'll meet the women from Gaza too.
ושבתי מגלותי יפתחו
Of course, the Women Wage Peace done the same thing inside Israel by doing the march itself for 14 days from the north to the south. Women joining the marchers.
We are inspired by the women from Liberia, but also from the women from Ireland, who made it possible to get to an agreement. The women in Ireland did form a party on a certain moment on this basis, and they dissolved the minute they achieved their goal.
That's it. That's what we want to do. We want as many women as we can to march, saying no more, that's enough, no more war, we want peace, and let's do it.
I would like to take this time to congratulate the women of Peace, I want to thank you for standing up for peace alongside your Palestinian sisters.
The atmosphere was electricity, and everybody was crying all the time. The tears were not desperate tears. There were, for a first time in a long, long time, that there were hope tears. And it was moving because there was so much strength in the hope the women gave.
Thank you for the children of Israel. Thank you for the children of Palestine. Thank you. Peace. Shalom.
It's women and music, and Lima was there, and they started hugging. I am from Hebron, I am from Majd al-Krum, I am from... and I know you, I saw you in this program and that program. And it was a sea of white. We started marching towards the baptism site, and I look back and I see this river of women. Like, I still cannot have the words to explain it. It was something, this is what I imagined would happen. And this is where I saw that women can bring us as one tribe of human beings together. I could not believe the connection, the instant connection. They didn't have to go through training. They knew that this is an Israeli movement and we are here to support them. 1,000 Palestinian women were there. They just brought their friends, their daughters, everybody. And that was the scene. And I wanted the world to stop at that moment and just see how women and how human beings can just connect. And I think Women Wage Peace was baptized there. The streets were closed. People were standing on the windows and cheering us up. The police that is supposed to be not letting me in is protecting me there with other women. And we marched for 3 hours, and then we ended up in front of Netanyahu's office. And each one of these women gave the greatest speech ever. What these women need to hear is that they actually have a partner. And the partner is not necessarily an official partner. It's the Palestinian women who are fed up with this occupation, with this conflict, and they want to live and they want to raise their kids. And I said, don't believe the myth that you don't have a partner. You have a partner, and today is the proof of it. But guess what? Tomorrow the hard work starts. Each one of you should go back to their own people and tell them that this has to end. And we should dignify each other and liberate each other as people, as human beings. And I think that was the moment where everything has changed in terms of the people-to-people movement in Palestine and Israel. It got its place, its recognition. I am still working with Women Wage Peace on the political level. They go to the Knesset and they try to meet with Netanyahu. I got them a meeting with Mahmoud Abbas the next day. October 20th, they were in his office. They came to the Muqata and they met with Mahmoud Abbas, and Mahmoud Abbas gave them full endorsement, told them that I am with you and I'll support this movement until the end of my day. Once we know that the Israeli security is totally dependent on my security and my security is dependent on Israeli security, this wall is going to come down, and maybe I will not be around. It's not a matter of time. I know people are always on the sense of urgency that things should happen now. But just look at this place, how small it is and how long the history of it, and how many walls were built and how many walls were taken down. This wall is going to come down.
It's been amazing because so many women around the world have been so inspired by our marches and Women Wage Peace, and they just want in solidarity to be supportive, and they're organizing big marches and maybe also for their own society. You know, Yael Dickelbaum, that started with Women Wage Peace in peace activism, it's a blessing for both of us because she heard about our dream of the March of Hope for last year and she started crying. She said, this is my dream of 12 years. I had this vision of women marching in the desert in white. I want to be with you. And she went home and she, with divine inspiration, wrote this song that nobody can plan these things, but it became our hymn. And now it's sung all over the world, and it's leading women all over the world. And this also happened so organically because there was such power in the music that, that came through her.
Women of the world, unite! Women of the world, unite! Women of the world, unite! Women of the world, unite!
I always had a feeling that women are the key to bring peace to this world, these times. It's music and activism, and it's a lot of groundwork of many, 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 many women who are working all the time to mend the ripples in our society and with our neighbors. So we're reaching out to each other. That there will be 1,000 Palestinian women who will come to march with us. And when they said that, I started to cry immediately because I felt very touched. And I told them, I'm here to give my music for your cause. To agree to bring peace is not just an intellectual, idealist thing. It's about heart. It's about human beings for being able to forgive, being able to back out from our limits, and the process of it is it's constantly making peace. And I have to say, it is a global movement.
Very first meeting, there were 40 women that sat together and thought, what do we want? What is different? What is new? What is our manifest? So that was 40 women in the very first meeting. Now we're 40,000. There's a lot of peace movements in Israel, but there's nothing that is led and thought and felt by women. And they just got up and said, let's start doing this. And word to mouth emails started coming from many directions. Come meet and hear about this new movement, Women Wage Peace. We're the fastest growing grassroots movement in Israel right now, and the most active physically out there in the streets on an ongoing basis. We have branches literally all over the country, from north to south. We do things year-round. It's groundbreaking because we use a language that's very inclusive, because we think that's the only way to get behind a political agreement, get behind the leaders. We unify around the notion that only a political agreement will finally bring peace to this region. It's not going to be another war. It's not going to be if we purchase more tanks and more airplanes. It's only if we're achieving a political agreement that's accepted and respected by both sides. So everything is so thought out and considered from all different angles, which is part of the reason why we're wanting women to be part of political agreement processes. When the negotiations finally resume, women have to be there, and women of diverse backgrounds, because they see the picture from different angles. So we end up with our signs of Begin and Sadat and Carter in the middle shaking hands. That sends a message of it's possible, with celebrating what has already been done and not shaming and blaming the leaders right now because so far they didn't succeed. If they feel there's enough support from the streets to sit on both sides, it's not going to work if it's only one side. If the leaders feel there's enough public support for them to go back to negotiations, they'll have the guts to do it.
We're here now, united as free women and men to wage peace, not war. Are you with us? Allah yahmiku, God bless you all. Peace to all of us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We are an Israeli movement, and we have the support of our beautiful and courageous Palestinian sisters. So we are saying it's a myth that it's impossible to do peace here. It's a myth that is very, very much internalized by everybody. But of course it's possible. It happened in Ireland after 800 years. It happens between German and the world after the horrific Second World War. Of course peace can be done. This journey we wanted to model, to do the modeling for the leaders, to show how immense peace you can reach with human beings if you open your heart and your mind with creativity, audacity, with courage and open heart. So that's what we did. We connected really all the country, in the south, in the Negev, the Bedouins villages, a place like Dimona, where the mayor is a Likud member. And he said, peace is for everybody. It's not a question of left or right. We all deserve peace, and I embrace women with peace, he said. And I'm going to recommend all the mayors to do that. So we are a grassroots that is really doing the work from the womb of the mothers, the womb of the earth. And we are doing something very radical that is really changing the reality. What we felt when we were walking with our Palestinian sisters there, we were 8,000 women yesterday in the desert, going back to the places where Abraham, Hagar, and Sarah were walking there when everything started, walking there together. The joy, the light, the sanity, because it's madness. What we are trapped in, it's madness.
Once a year, we have like a peak event. And the event is not important, it's important for itself, but also the process leading to it gets to more and more people from all facets of the nation and in Palestine as well. We had the 2 weeks journey to peace, where we started in the south, continued in the north, continued in the west, and eventually met in the east for our peak day. We were very inclusive. We went to big cities, small cities, little villages, Bedouin towns in the desert, a few tents.
I'm just so deeply moved by how simple it is and how powerful it can be. With every step, every sound, with looking into each other in the eyes, to see the women that we consider to be, or used to consider to be the enemy. So it's more than just, yes, yeah to peace. It's like we're going to stick to it steadfast until there's an actual agreement.
This is huge. This is incredible today. I heard there was something like 180 buses coming from all over the country. We'll find out at the end what the numbers. Later we're going up to Jerusalem, and we're hoping for thousands and thousands of people marching through Jerusalem this year, as I saw last year. That's what brought me out. I came out to the last day in Jerusalem, and there were 20,000 people marching through Jerusalem for peace. It gave me new hope, brought me back to a peace movement. And I just hope we keep growing and accomplish things.
And we had all these activities, talking circles, meeting local women, really getting together in each place within the Israeli society with women from periphery towns that are typically very right-wing and completely not peace activists in their DNA. The way to meet and open hearts is eating together, cooking together, and doing arts and singing and creating. So we bring artistic tools as a means to just know the other. And we do the same when we meet Palestinian women from all kinds of communities who've never met Israelis other than soldiers in the checkpoint. So it's art and singing and moving, doing a little dance, creating the Peace for Peace quilts. It's a means to be together and do something together that's not political. How do we move forward? We tried a war, we tried another war, we've been trying wars forever. It didn't bring us any closer to a political agreement. So can we recognize the pain, talk about the pain, and know that the pain is on both sides? And this is where women come in also, because women's heart opens to pain really easily. It's the tears of a mother, so it's a place of connection. But it's a language that takes a while to understand, so we have to keep reminding each other. And we just walked from place to place and had gatherings and events, very moving. We were in Arab towns. We had the blessings of a lot of mayors, and really from all facets of the political map.
לעיר תל אביב-יפו. אני שומע שמגיעים לכאן מכל רחבי הארץ, וכמו שאני אומר, העיר הזאת היא עיר של כולם.
And we're all very connected to Israel or Palestine, and so how can we live in a place where we're hopeless about its future? It doesn't work with human nature.
זה עניין של הבנה של כלל הציבור, וזה דבר שגם כשמשיגים אותו, צריכים להמשיך לעבוד עליו כדי לשמור עליו. שלום לא קורה מעצמו.
In Women Wage Peace, one of our strategies is to change the consciousness to be peace supportive, because people stop believing it's possible, is to make people believe that actually it is possible, and actually it's up to us, and it's up to our leaders. We give lectures, we show movies about bloody conflicts that were resolved in other places of the world.
We are their conscience. Sitting out here, we are calling to their conscience to do the right thing. And the right thing now is to give the Liberian women and their children the peace that they so desperately need.
And also we show how women took a major role in bringing to a resolution to the conflict. And that makes people hopeful again and rise from the couch and join us in our rallies and join us in our marches and feel hopeful again. And when you're hopeful, then you're proactive. And when you're proactive, it's like a domino effect. More people join you, and the more people join, the more the leaders see. I have the people's support, so I'll go forward. What we do will empower other women around the world, and hopefully in Gaza as well.
Today is for the women who are courageous enough to ask for the unaskable peace. היום אנחנו כאן נשים אמיצות כנגד כל המכשולים לבקש את מה שכל כך קשה לקבל. אנחנו רוצות שלום. Today we welcome women from Hebron, Ramallah, Nablus, Bethlehem, Tel Aviv, Jaffa, Jerusalem, Beersheba, Haifa, Akko, and many more all over Israel.
The healing that we are doing now, the true feminism, that it's inclusive, the female energy, comes to heal all of us. We as women, we need to bring this feminine energy that is love actually, and compassion, and radical listening that will heal all of us, because we are all victims of the patriarchy that is for thousands of years, that the patriarchy that make us split between body and soul, between women and men, between left and right, split, hierarchy. So enough of that.
And what's very important, we learned it from our partner, Huda Abu al-Akub, our Palestinian partner, both sides do their own work. So we're not coming to do the work for them. That's very condescending. They need to do their work, we need to do our work. And it's very helpful to tell the people on both sides there is something going on over there. You know, the Palestinians, to see that there's so many women that want to end this conflict, that's eye-opening for them, because they just know soldiers and fear, and they think all the Israelis want them, killed. Israelis believe Palestinians want us in the sea. So both of us doing our work with our own communities, that gives wind in the sails of the others.
So Women Wage Peace now is growing, more than 40,000 members. The number is important because then you have enough leverage on the ground. The theory of change is what's important. These women are talking to Israelis. And this is what's important even for the Palestinians, because the Palestinians see now that there is a real partner on the ground who is trying to change the dynamics inside Israel.
Shaming and blaming, and has been such a main actor in the political situation between the Palestinians and Israelis. And everybody's caught in that trap. It's also the victim-persecutor trap. If we look at our stories, it's heartbreaking. We can, make you cry, and the Palestinians can make you cry. We're both victims. And then we're trapped in this cycle, and then we become prosecutors and aggressors, and we're victims, and everybody keeps blaming the other and shaming, and look at what these are doing. There's no end to this.
So they are trying to change these dynamics within the Israeli society, coming from completely care and the best interest of the Israeli society.
And so our new language says enough with the shaming and blaming, and enough with the victim stories. And everybody's got a really moving narrative, yes. And can we put that aside for now and see how can we move forward?
Jerusalem is not just the Haram Sharif, it's not just the temple, it's not the church. Everyone has a stake in Jerusalem. In my opinion, it should be owned by everyone, and it shouldn't be exclusive to anyone. If this city is not opening its doors to everyone, then there will be no peace in the world. This is the city of peace for thousands of years. And everyone who wants to learn how peace looks like and how can it be lived, they should come here. Everyone has to have an access to it. The YMCA here on King David Street is really symbolic because this is a place that brings all kinds of traditions together in one place and they coexist. And you sit outside and you watch kids leaving the kindergarten speaking Arabic and Hebrew and English interchangeably, thinking it's one language. And you see Christians, Muslims, Jews, covered, not covered, etc., all of that. And you said, we're so crazy. If this can happen in the middle of Jerusalem, it can happen anywhere in the world.
You are at the annual regional conference of OLMAP. This is the third year that we do it. OLMAP is a network of 110 plus organizations that are working on people-to-people activities, different fields, different strategies. Some on education, some on environment, some on activism. Really a variety of social society activities. We have organizations that focus on peace, and most of them are cross-border Israelis and Palestinians from the West Bank. And we have loads of organizations that work inside Israel on shared society, Jews and Arabs inside it.
No matter what we do as people here to try to reconcile our dominant narratives, our traumas, etc., we still have politicians who drop bombs on us and tell us that we don't belong. Tell one side over the other that they don't belong to this place. You walk in the streets of Jerusalem and you know that everyone belongs to Jerusalem. And I think it's important to bring people together here to see that the situation is not as bad as it seems, because this is also something that is always promoted about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that it's intractable, never going to be solved, a bunch of crazy people killing each other, etc. And you come here and you just watch the buses, the taxis, and everyone is like talking their own language and going and doing their own business. So what's the big deal?
Jerusalem is a symbol, and Jerusalem in a nutshell is the whole conflict. We have history, we have narratives, we have memories, we have holy sites, we have symbols for self-determination of people. We have everything here. So if we won't be able to take Jerusalem and make it a symbol of peace, we will fail all over. You know, Women Wage Peace gives a different voice of peace. They talk to people inside the Israeli society that the peace camp failed so far. And I think this is hope. This is also hope, when peace is not just a political part of the society. We share it, and we should strengthen the forces within our own Israeli society. Palestinians are doing it the same in the Palestinian society.
They are redefining the concept of security inside Israel, at least from a feminist point of view. And by feminism, we don't mean that only women. Feminism is a leadership style that includes men, and men are real partners in it. But it focuses on youth, it focuses on the future, it focuses on how can we convince the Israeli youngsters who are growing up, who are third generation now, that this is part of their identity and they have to embrace their Middle Eastern identity and stop thinking as foreigners.
They don't have any recollection of other time. For them it's like reality, this is it. Them and us, enemies, violence and war. So we are trying to create a different world here, not racist, which respect people, human rights and each other. What gives me hope is to see so many people in my community of peace activists, of shared society activists who don't give up, who know that in a way we don't have any other option. The option is to change, to take responsibility, not to be victims, not to say the leaders are bad. So we are here to work and to change it from bottom up.
The reason why Jerusalem is sad, the reason why Jerusalem is being not the place for peace, is that many thousands of the world are denied access, and that's inhuman, because it means everything to everyone. And it's not just the Middle Easterns, it's not the Arabs, it's not the Christians, it's not the Muslims and the Jews. Everyone who came through this city for thousands of years have a stake in this city. Her doors have to be open to everyone, and that's the equation for peace.
We need to see the peace while we're alive, not into 100 years ahead.
We need another kind of energy. That of course the power is love.
What we do will empower other women around the world and hopefully in Gaza as well.
People lost hope, and now this is giving people new hope.
This is the future, to be inclusive, to have a higher aspiration to serve the communities.
What's wrong is wrong anywhere in the place, anytime in the world, and we have to stand against it.
This is our weapon. This is our weapon. Here, come, be. Let's honor life.
I saw the words "Women Wage Peace" on my computer screen and I felt a calling. It's truth.
We're seeing the tension rising up, and we don't want another war.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are called the children of God.